ones that are attached for tonight. A couple things I want to go over, though, to be specific. This is, in a sense, the basic language. There is resolutions that have been put together. Our attorneys have to put that together by statute. There's some language in there that we can't change, but ultimately, one of the options that our bond committee recommended was for to consider $199,400,000 for three specific areas: purchasing of pupil transportation vehicles, purchase of furniture, equipment, and technology for instructional purposes, and then maintenance, improvements, and renovations to school facilities, including security enhancements, acquisition of land, and new construction. Now, that's broad language. As you know, you have lots of details of Excel sheets where we go over the different expenditures based on different categories that we've covered in multiple meetings with you. In a sense, they all go into three different categories overall. When voted on, we go out and educate our schools about, if they have a new HVAC unit, if they're getting new devices, all of those pieces. Sometimes that has to change slightly if there's emergency or if costs go up compared to what we estimated and we have to change that date. But ultimately, we stick very close to what we've put together when we originally go out. The second option that the committee recommended was $271,500,000. Again, same areas: pupil transportation, furniture and equipment and technology for instructional purposes, and then maintenance, improvements, renovations, school facilities, including security enhancements, acquisition of land, and new construction. We put a summary together. The first option, we came up with 4 different options. Now, we started this process after the bond did not pass last November. We had worked on this obviously for 2 years prior to last year, coming up with the option number 1. And then in November, when it did not pass, we went back to the drawing board. We went out and asked our community what would you support if we did call for an election. We also then tried to talk to as many community members as possible related to this. We worked through our advisory groups, which was both our superintendent's advisory groups, our parent and staff advisory groups, and then we have, of course, our bond citizens group. And so we've tried to go out, talk to as many people as possible. Our chambers, there's different places that we've been able to communicate and ask questions with city officials, just to try to get input back so we can make an impact. We did know that our community did not support the first option, and so that's why we came back. We heard from our community that they were interested in a bond, but for a less dollar amount. Our last bond that was approved in 2019 was approved for $290 million. So you can see option 2 is less than $290 million. Option 3 is $199 million. And then the fourth option we also added was $154 million. So what are the big differences between 2 and 3? The major differences between 2 and 3, to summarize it without going through every line item for you, is technology. We had to postpone some of our technology purchases this year, so it's a catch-up, and then it also is a 4-year rollout of technology versus option 3, which is not a catch-up. It would just be starting where we're at, and then 3 years of technology expenditures. The other major change between 2 and 3 is the amount for reimagining or updating our academic instructional improvement areas and spaces at our schools. There's a small difference between option 2 and option 3. Also, the amount for general renovations for our elementary and secondary, there's a less amount in option 3 than there is in 2. I'll give you an example. If we have a problem, a structural problem, for example, that's not on a preventative maintenance schedule to ultimately fix at one of our schools, we don't have it on there, but we have a structural problem, it doesn't get covered with warranties or insurance, then we ultimately have to cover that out of a general renovation line item. So those items that don't always come up on the preventative maintenance. It's kind of like at your home. The other day my garage door went out. It's not supposed to fail for another 5 years, but it's not working anymore, and I got to replace that garage door, right? So sometimes those things happen. We try our best. Tom and his team do a fantastic job with our preventative maintenance. HVACs, electrical systems, bathrooms, carpeting, roofs, all of those are replaced based on years and warranties, all those pieces. But sometimes there's things that happen, and so that's the other line that's probably the bigger change. A few area changes also in furniture and equipment, just less amount. If we don't reimagine schools, there will be a less amount for furniture for those schools if needed. So those are the major changes between 2 and 3. Option 4, the big difference between that is Hartford. It was not included in 4. So obviously 1, 2, and 3 all had Hartford. As you know, it's one of our oldest buildings that we built, and it is in need of being replaced for a number of reasons. Safety being one of the major issues, and then of course the changes that we have, just because it costs a lot to replace anything in there, efficiencies with utilities, and there's a number of things that need to be redone in that school. So what does it cost to keep redoing that school and remodeling it or replacing it? Those are the changes. If you want more information, there's presentations. We have gone over it, I know, a handful of times with you all in board planning sessions and meetings over the last 6 months. But again, you can go back to some of those and pull those off the board as a citizen if you want to, or we can forward you that information. So the totals are here. This is, in a sense, it will come on the board or on the pamphlet, in a sense, in 3 different areas. Last year it came in 5 areas because we had 2 areas also that were considered administration. For example, if we put in the $487 million, there was a request to build a facility at our warehouse near our warehouse for our maintenance and operations team to put their tractors in to keep them out of the sun, to try to make those the equipment there last longer. We've taken that out because that's in a sense considered non-instructional, so it's considered in a sense administration. And so there were some line items in there. We took that out because people, when we did, again, surveyed, they really supported instruction and the things related to instruction. So all of our money in options 2, 3, and 4 are related to pupil transportation and then specific instructional purposes related to furniture and equipment and to renovations, improvements of our facilities. So you can see that the amounts are kind of lumped together there. Again, first option, $487,450,000. Option 2, $271,500,000. Option 3, $199,400,000, and option 4, $154,400,000. The Citizens Committee recommended options number 2 and options number 3 for the board to consider. And that is where we're at right now. We do have one of our members, or a couple members from our Bond and Override Committee that is here too. So if you have any additional questions, we can ask them some too. Do you have any questions for me? I'm gonna actually turn that over to Mr. Dunn. There's no mic, sorry.
That's okay. It has not yet been submitted to the SFD. We currently are re-roofing Chandler High through SFD funds. We've also have Bogle High School in the process, and Basha High School would be the next one that we seek funding through the SFD. It will in the next 3 years, yes.
So eventually we will.
Yeah.
Yes, so in there, we broke out, and we sent you the detailed breakouts for what the differences were, and you can see that on line 1 for the reimagining. So the big difference between 2 and 3 was around $10 million, and then the furniture to support those. So there's $2 million for Anderson Junior High in that, and then when you come down to see the furniture side of that for the instructional that attaches to that's another $300,000. So it's $2.3 million total for that. It's this, yes, so then that is the overall sheet, that would be under the reimagine, so there'll be 2 line items with that, Mr. Roars. So when you go up to it, we would see the reimagine, line 7, that you see the $20 million versus 10 million, that would be 2 of it. And then where's the furniture for the reimagined projects, which is line 11, in a sense, you can see the difference between there, 3 million versus $1.5 million. So lines 11 and 7.
The option 1 junior high remodel would have been a major remodel of the entire school, not a specific instructional area.
Willis Junior High is also embedded within option 2, not in option 3, which is another one of our title schools. Okay, any other questions, Mrs. Moss?
Yes, I would, technology to me is a very important aspect of option 2. And that option
Sure, typically about 3 years.
Sorry?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, 3 years is our return on investment. We did like 7 schools 3 or 4 years ago, 7 elementary schools, and we're starting to see the return on investment now.
Okay, that's really good, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And then the other thing I had found, I'm sorry, was the software. It looks like that was dropped from last year's proposal, that caught my eye.
Yes. So actually, we found that software comes, we've put that underneath our capital budget to be covered because software has to be renewed every year. As you approved a bunch of that tonight, in a sense, for example, our vision software, which is Tyler Technology, our Infinite Campus software system, our cybersecurity, all of those pieces. So that we're funding out of our capital. So we have moved all of that to our capital budget. And then, in a sense, our devices, some of our infrastructure, because no matter what, you're still going to have to, you still have to fund a number of our software items, and so we put those out of capital and we moved all the other areas like device replacement, network infrastructure, copiers, printers, of course all of our regular devices, our special systems, our audio visual systems, and then things like even your camera systems, all of those are underneath the bond. So we just really have focused and really made sure that we can cover the things we need to make sure people get paid and to make sure we don't have cyber attacks. We also have a number of instructional pieces that are software driven now in today's age. So all of that comes out of capital, and then the other pieces we just mapped out of our bonds to be really clean for the future.
Okay, and I know we don't have Ms. Flannery with us, but related to our one-to-one commitment with devices, I was just curious, do we know what school sites really, we have one-to-one for everybody, but which ones really lean into that need and we know kids don't have an alternative device at home?
Yes, and we were fortunate also to be able to give kids Wi-Fi at home. It started in COVID, and so we've been able to have that opportunity to attach with their devices when they go home. If there is a need for that, we have the ability to do that. But we do have a whole replacement cycle, and I know that this Excel sheet is still long, but it actually, we can send it to you and you can click on it and it'll open up to show you every single school, for example, that receives the devices based on our device replacement plan, our audio visual replacement plan. And so she has identified every school in here, K through 12 on a replacement cycle. Now remember, your littles go to have Apple or iPads, and then we go up after that as it becomes age appropriate for the devices. Now the little ones don't take them home, they have them here at school, but of course our secondary are able to take those home. But she does have a great replacement cycle on that. And of course, we weren't one-to-one prior to COVID. Now we are one-to-one, and it is a concern across the United States for how people are going to replace all of these computers. People are looking at capital funds, but there's not enough to replace them, and so they're looking for, in a sense, voter initiatives. In our state, that's bonds. Other states, those are mill levies, and that's where most people are having to fund that, or they go after a capital override. So you're going to see a few other districts out there in our state that use capital overrides to fund technology too. Hope that helps.
Yes. Any other feedback, comments? All right, well, I think we do have a motion on the table specific to, and I will read this out loud, our proposal for the adoption of a resolution ordering and authorizing all matters necessary for a $271,500,000 bond election to be held on November 4th of 2025. It, and the deadline for submitting arguments will be August 8th, 2025 at 5 p.m. With this motion on the table, I will call for a roll call vote, starting with you, Mr. King.
Aye.
Mrs. Matson? Aye. Mrs. Mendoza? Aye. Mr. Roars?
Yay.
And I will be in favor. Aye, Mrs. King. And so the motion passes 4-1, and we will be moving forward, Chandler Unified School District, with a bond order at $271,500,000. Please get involved and support our efforts. That is a direct support to each student, staff, and school site in our district. We next will see our next action item, item 6.04, and that's also with Mrs. Berry. Mrs. Berry, do you want water?
No, I'm good. Thank you, though. Appreciate that. All right, well, Madam President, members of the board, tonight we're recommending for you to adopt a resolution ordering all matters necessary for a 15% maintenance and operations budget override election to be held on November 4th, 2025. The district is currently operating under a 15% M&O override. By law, the last year of fully funding this override is fiscal year 26-27. In order to fully implement Journey 2025, Chandler Unified School District requests a continuation of the existing 15% override. If the board agrees, this will require an election in November of 2025. The renewal of our existing 15% override would provide funds for maintaining safety personnel and initiatives at district schools, maintaining competitive class sizes, supporting teacher pay, and maintaining specialized programs, instructional materials, and enhanced technology.
And let's have our presentation and then we'll entertain a motion.
And Madam President, member of the board, I only have one sheet just to ultimately go over the language which I just discussed. Again, you are able to go and look at the presentations that we've given on the maintenance and operations, or maintenance and operations override. Also, our citizens override committee recommended going out in year 4 for our to renew it. It doesn't add another override on it. It just ultimately replaces it, which is a little different than the bond in a sense. And so it's not stacked upon each other. It actually just replaces the current one that we have in place. So it's a continuation of the existing one. And again, it's those 4 areas that you see right there: maintain safety for personnel and initiatives at district schools, maintain competitive class sizes, support teacher pay, maintain specialized programming, instructional materials, and enhanced technology. It would begin in July of 2026 for the fiscal year, and it would be approximately $45,745,513. That's approximately the amount we're at right now, and the reason it doesn't change much is because as we decline in students, we get the increase usually in the base support level, which offsets the two. So that's why it's staying the same. In the past, when we were growing with students, that times the new increase in the base support level allowed us to increase the amount that we received from the override, because the number of students that were coming in increased times the base support level times the 15%. Now we're declining slightly in our population, and even though we get the increase to the base level support level, it's about equal. So it's approximately $45,745,513. Are there any questions that you have?
Before we open up to discussion, I will open the floor for a motion on item 6.04. We have a motion.
Madam President, I motion to approve continuation, or let me get the language here. I motion to approve that we adopt a resolution for the 50% maintenance and operation budget override election of 2025. I don't know if I say that right.
Do we need to record the amount? Okay, well, do we have a second? We have a motion on. Perfect. Thank you, Mrs. Mendoza. And we can open up the floor now for questions and comments related to item 6.04.
I have a question, Madam President. This is very, so can you, so this is a continuation. When will we need to revisit this override if we're going to continue it again? Like when will this, yeah, when will it expire?
So it is, if we were to approve this one, it would start in July 1st of 2026. And it is actually good for 7 years, but it's only fully funded for 5 years. So in a sense, we typically, in the last handful of elections, we go out every 4 years. You don't have to go out until year 7, but if the 7 years is it's only fully funded for 5, then in year 6 you lose a third of the money, and then in year 6 or 7 you lose 2/3, and by year 8 it's gone. And so our district has chosen to go out in year 4 in case it fails. We don't lose a little over $16 million in a sense, or almost $15 million. We don't lose those dollars. We have 1 more year to potentially go back out and ask our voters for that. and then we can, and if it passes, then you don't lose it. If you do, you'd have one more year before you had to prepare for that. And so for us, we'd be going after this in November of 25 if you call for it now. And then if you say yes to that, we would also probably recommend in 4 years, which would be November of 29, we would go after the next election for the following year. So 4 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Berry, I was taking a look at the bond and override committee voting results. So I think it's worth just sharing out loud. We had 20 participants, and the question specific to the maintenance and operations override was just a simple yes or no. Do you support calling for a continuation of the 15% M&O override in the November 2025 election? And it looks like 100% of the group selected yes. So the bond committee is in full undoubted support. There were no alternatives offered in supporting the override. Is that?
That is correct. Yes. There was actually, we had 26 people come to the meeting on January the 27th, and then 29 people came on February the 3rd, 19 came on February the 24th, and then 23 people came in May. And so when we voted on that, 20 people, a couple people had some technical difficulties, and then they were okay with, not voting on, there was a couple pieces, so that's why there was 20. I just want to be clear how many people were at the meeting, and 20 people ended up voting. But yes, all 20 were in complete favor of continuing the maintenance and operations override.
Okay, and can we get an idea, is there a descriptor on the stakeholders within that group of
Sure.
20, what it represented?
Sure. So we offer it to anyone who wants to participate. We don't deny anyone who comes in. It includes stakeholders from our parent group, our staff members, community members, business leaders are all welcome to the table.
And I know we touched on this at our business advisory meeting. And we did somewhat of a
We
informal
did.
or formal count for the support.
We did. Yeah, we did some informal counts and a number of them. Mr. Narducci and I did that. So, for example, we asked our business advisory committee, and our business advisory committee is a little different than some other districts. We try to really focus on people who are specifically in our 80 square miles, who have businesses, and we try to make it a smaller group so we can get some actual advisement going on during that instead of just an overall share out. We want to get input from that. And so it has about 25 to 30 people who regularly attend to give us some input on that. So we asked for input and just a consensus on that. We also asked our teachers and staff in our advisory committee. It was Mr. Narducci's Superintendent's Advisory Committee. We also did one with our parents, our PTO group that came on to ask for support with that. And then in our small groups, we had a technology advisory group, and then with Mrs. Flannery, and then Mr. Dunn had a support service transportation advisory group. And so all of those were supportive of not only the maintenance and operations continuation, but our bond, where they were looking at options. Specifically, they saw option 1, but looked at options 2, 3, and 4, and then gave us their opinion based on those, and then voted for being consensus on those. Now, that doesn't show here. The committee, the one that was reporting out, is just specifically our citizens bond and override committee.
Thank you, that's helpful. Anything else? Mrs. Berry, could you kind of talk a little bit about how the override influences the ability for student achievement, and what our district does with those funds in order to enhance student achievement and make sure that all of our students get the educational opportunities that they need?
Sure, that's a great question. I think it's really important for people to understand that we are an entity and our business is people, and it's students, and our business is serving those students, and it's with people. So we're a service industry, and really what we do every day is we help children. Our number one priority is kids. And so 80% of our budget is in salaries and benefits in the maintenance.